Welcome to our deep dive today into JSW Steel,
Yeah.
their performance in the third quarter of the fiscal year 2024-25. We've got a press release announcing the results and some reports filed with the stock exchanges
Yeah.
and even an investor presentation. We're going to try to break it all down for you and give you the most insightful information possible.
So it'd be like having an all-access pass
Yeah.
to one of India's largest steel producers.
Speaking of headlines, the first thing that jumps out at me is JSW Steel hit record-breaking crude steel production,
Yeah.
7.03 million tons.
Oh, wow.
That's huge.
It is, and especially noteworthy when you consider the global economic landscape.
Right, because it seems like globally things are a bit uncertain.
Yeah, a bit uncertain.
Resilient, but uncertain.
Yeah, there are some geopolitical tensions and the ever-present threat of trade wars.
How do you see those global factors impacting JSW Steel moving forward?
Well, I think these global dynamics have a direct impact on JSW Steel's future.
Yeah.
Increased tariffs could affect steel prices,
Mhm.
and growth in key markets like the U.S. and India could fuel demand.
Yeah, that makes sense. So global context is crucial. Now let's zoom in on India specifically. Our sources highlight some interesting trends. Crude steel production is on the rise, yet imports remain high.
Right.
Why is India importing so much steel if they're making more themselves?
Yeah, that's a really important question. It suggests that even with increased domestic production, India's steel mills aren't yet meeting the full demand. So this puts JSW Steel in a fascinating position. They're a major player in a rapidly growing market, but they also face competition from imports.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to bake a cake big enough for a party. But some of the guests are bringing their own desserts
Yeah.
to make things even more interesting. It looks like the government is stepping in with some trade investigations.
Right.
Safeguards and anti-dumping probes are being launched by the Directorate General of Trade Remedies. What do you think about that?
Well, this definitely adds another layer of complexity to the situation. These potential government actions could have a significant impact on the steel market, either by shielding domestic producers like JSW Steel from imports, or potentially creating unintended consequences.
All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit and take a look at the performance of JSW Steel's various subsidiaries.
Mm.
It's a little bit of a mixed bag, with some shining stars and others facing hurdles. For instance, Bhushan Power and Steel, or BPSL, is seeing impressive profits,
Right.
largely due to increased volume and lower coking coal prices.
Yeah. BPSL's performance highlights just how vital the cost of raw materials is to the steel industry. Coking coal, a key ingredient in steelmaking, has seen a price drop, which benefits BPSL's bottom line.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then we have JSW Steel Coated Products, another strong performer. That even snags some incentives for its tin plate facility. But their U.S. operations, both in Ohio and the plate and pipe mill, are
Yeah.
recording losses. What factors are at play there?
Well, JSW Steel's experience in the U.S. shows both the benefits and risks of having a diverse portfolio. So while they benefit from a presence in multiple markets, they're also exposed to various economic conditions and challenges specific to each region.
Yeah, it looks like their Italy operations are experiencing a similar downturn, with lower performance attributed to reduced sales volume. So a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the subsidiaries.
Yeah, if we step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that while JSW Steel is undoubtedly a powerful force in the industry, they're not immune to the ups and downs of the global market.
Absolutely. But JSW Steel is also moving full speed ahead with some very ambitious projects, particularly in India.
Right.
First up, we have the 5 MTPA project at Vijayanagar, where they've already commissioned various facilities and are expecting a production ramp up in the fourth quarter. Then there's the color-coded line in Jammu and Kashmir, which is already in its trial run phase. And get this, they're constructing a massive 30 MTPA slurry pipeline in Odisha, stretching an incredible 302 kilometers.
Wow.
It's projected to be completed in 2027.
It really is a statement about their commitment to long-term growth and strategic resource management. This slurry pipeline is a game changer, not just because of its scale, but also because it secures a reliable and efficient way to transport raw materials.
So we've got record-breaking production happening amidst a mixed global economic landscape, coupled with a company aggressively pursuing expansion. But what about the financials? How is JSW Steel doing in terms of profitability? Our sources reveal some substantial numbers. Revenue from operations hit 41,378 crore, Operating EBITDA reached 5,579 crore, and their net profit landed at 719 crore. Can you break down what these figures mean for us?
Yeah, sure. So revenue represents the total income generated from their core business operations.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it as the total value of all the steel they sold during the quarter.
Okay.
Operating EBITDA, which stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, is a measure of the company's profitability.
Gotcha.
And net profit is what remains after all expenses are accounted for. It shows how much profit JSW Steel ultimately made during the quarter.
Okay, but are these numbers good? Bad?
Well, that's where things get a little bit nuanced. It's not just about the absolute numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but also about how they compare to previous quarters,
Mm-hmm.
the same period last year, and even industry averages.
Okay. So we need to dig a bit deeper to get the full story. They also mention a net debt to equity ratio of 1.00x. Now, I know debt isn't usually a good word, but what does this ratio actually mean?
So the net debt to equity ratio is a way to measure how much of the company is financed by debt compared to investments from shareholders. In this case, a ratio of 1.00x means their debt is equal to their equity. While this isn't necessarily a red flag, it's important to compare it to industry benchmarks and
Oh.
consider their overall financial strategy.
Okay. And they also have a net debt to EBITDA ratio of 3.57x.
Right, this measures JSW Steel's ability to pay off its debt using its earnings. A lower number is generally better, as it suggests they can comfortably manage their debt burden.
So it seems like JSW Steel is a company of contrasts. Record-breaking production alongside global uncertainty. Ambitious expansion plans, coupled with financial figures that require careful analysis.
Exactly, that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
But there's more to JSW Steel than just numbers and expansion plans, right? Let's talk about sustainability.
Absolutely. Sustainability is a critical aspect of any company's operations today. And JSW Steel seems to be taking it seriously. They've set a goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050.
Interesting. Especially given their aggressive growth plans. It seems like they're trying to balance potentially competing priorities, expanding operations while also reducing their environmental impact.
You've hit the nail on the head. This is a challenge many industries are grappling with, especially ones with heavy environmental footprints, like steelmaking.
So how is JSW Steel approaching this?
Well, that's what we'll explore next, along with their digital transformation efforts.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. I can't wait to delve deeper into these
Yeah,
aspects.
absolutely.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's jump right in.
So before we were talking about JSW Steel's commitment to sustainability, which is a pretty big deal for a company like this.
It's a big deal for any company these days.
Yeah. You mentioned that they're aiming for carbon neutrality by 2050. How realistic is that? And what are they doing to get there?
One is a challenging goal,
Right.
but they're not just talking. They've outlined some concrete actions to reduce their carbon emissions, like renewable energy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're investing in solar and wind power
Huh.
to power their operations.
So they're trying to green their energy sources.
Yeah, exactly.
But what about the steel making itself? That's got to be energy intensive.
Oh, it is. But they're also exploring carbon capture technologies, which essentially trap carbon dioxide emissions.
Yeah.
And prevent them from entering the atmosphere,
Interesting.
like a giant filter.
I like it. What about using more recycled steel? Is that part of their plan?
Yeah, absolutely. Using scrap steel is a big part of their sustainability plan. It requires less energy to process scrap than raw iron ore, so that reduces their energy consumption. And also lowers their reliance on mining.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
like those.
Well, they're also focusing on improving energy efficiency in their existing plants and implementing water conservation measures and even exploring hydrogen as a cleaner fuel source.
Okay, so it sounds like they're really trying, but how do we know it's not just greenwashing?
Right. Well, what's encouraging is they're not just setting goals, they're also being transparent about their progress.
So they're reporting their numbers.
Yeah, they're publicly reporting their emissions reductions, energy consumption, and water usage.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about their digital transformation efforts. What does that even look like for a steel company?
So for JSW, it's about using technology to optimize their whole value chain. Procurement, production, logistics, customer relationships. It's about using data and analytics
To make better decisions.
to make better decisions, automate processes, improve efficiency, become more agile and competitive.
Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, so one example is their JSW One platform, which is an online marketplace that connects small and medium businesses with buyers and sellers.
So like an Amazon for steel?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a cool idea.
They're also using advanced analytics in machine learning to optimize their production processes. and using data to optimize their logistics.
So they're using data to improve their business and their environmental performance.
Exactly.
Then there's JSW One Finance Limited, or JOFL. What is that?
That's their newly launched non-banking financial company.
NBFC.
Yeah, so an NBFC provides banking services, but it doesn't have a full banking license.
Okay.
So JSW is using JOFL to offer financial services to businesses.
So it's like a one-stop shop.
It's a strategic move that could generate new revenue and solidify their position.
So they're not just resting on their laurels.
So they're actively seeking new ways to create value and remain competitive.
It's a lot to process. We've gone from record-breaking steel production to carbon capture to online marketplaces and now financial services. What's the overarching narrative?
I think it's a narrative of transformation. JSW Steel is becoming a more integrated and technology-driven company.
But no company is without challenges, right?
Right.
So what headwinds might JSW face?
Well, they're operating in a volatile global market. They're facing competition, and they're subject to regulatory changes. And commodity prices can impact their bottom line.
And what about internal challenges?
Well, internally, they're managing a complex network of subsidiaries and undergoing a cultural shift. Integrating new technologies into a traditional industry can be difficult.
So how should we assess their performance?
Well, I think we need to acknowledge their achievements, but also recognize the complexities and uncertainties they face.
So what should we be paying attention to?
Keep an eye on their carbon emissions and their progress toward their renewable energy targets.
Okay. And their digital transformation.
Watch how they're using data to make better decisions and how they're building a more agile business model.
So it's about understanding the long-term strategies. That will shape JSW Steel's future.
Exactly. It's a story about transformation, innovation, and the evolving role of corporations in a rapidly changing world.
JSW Steel is really pushing the boundaries here of what a steel company can be.
Yeah, they're not just focused on tons of steel produced.
Yeah.
They're thinking long-term.
Yeah.
About sustainability, integrating new technologies, and even getting into financial services.
And it's not just about checking boxes. It seems like they really want to make a positive impact.
Yeah.
But as we've talked about, there are challenges. The global steel market is competitive, and things like the global economy and geopolitics can really impact them.
Yeah, those are definitely factors beyond their control. But I think the bigger challenge is their ability to actually do what they're setting out to do.
Can they pull off this transformation?
Right. Can they integrate all these digital initiatives, achieve their sustainability goals, and remain financially stable all at the same time?
Yeah, those are the big questions. So what should we be paying attention to as this all unfolds?
I think keep a close eye on their carbon emissions and how they're doing with renewable energy.
Okay.
Are they actually reducing their footprint?
And what about their digital transformation?
Watch how they're using data to make decisions, and if they're becoming more agile and responsive.
So we have to look beyond just the numbers.
Yeah, it's about understanding the long-term trends.
Yeah.
And how they're approaching things strategically.
It's not just about steel.
It's a story about transformation and innovation and how companies are changing in the world.
This has been a really great deep dive. We've learned a lot.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
From production to global trade to financial analysis and new technologies.
It's just the beginning for JSW Steel. But hopefully this is giving you the tools to follow their journey.
Yes, to become more informed.
To understand the forces shaping our world.
So as we wrap up, let's leave you with one final thought. With JSW Steel focused on growth and sustainability, how will their reliance on digital tools impact their carbon reduction goals?
That's a tough one, but it's a great question to think about. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.